the release of Black Panther, we're now 18 movies into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That means it's time to stop and rank all 18 movies from the worst to the best in under 11 minutes. Now, before I get started, go ahead and put your ranking down below in the comments section. Tell me which ones you love, which ones you hate. I know for me, these are incredibly difficult to rank because I love the MCU. Every single movie in my top 10 here is very good to great. So we're gonna disagree on our rankings. I'm gonna put some movies a lot lower than you, and that's okay. That's the fun part where we get to talk about our differences and have a great discussion. Also, I'm currently re-reviewing the entire MCU on my channel leading up to Avengers Infinity War. Those reviews drop every single Monday. You can check out the playlist up here. Also, because I'm re-reviewing all these movies, I've shifted around my ranking quite a bit since my last MCU ranking video. With that said, let's get started. Coming in last place is Iron Man 2. Now, Robert Downey Jr. is charismatic as ever. There is some great action sequences in this movie, but the plot is all over the place. It's about Tony and the government, Whiplash's revenge, Justin Hammer's jealousy. It's a setup movie for the Avengers. It's about Tony and his relationship with his dad. And because there's so many plot lines going on, none of the stories get any momentum or build any sense of urgency. So the end result is a movie that just feels like a commercial for the Avengers. Coming in 17th place is Thor: The Dark World. For me, this is a movie that just falls flat. The main villain and plot aren't compelling at all, and the tone shifts constantly throughout the movie. It starts off kind of like Lord of the Rings in space. It becomes a buddy comedy halfway through the movie, and sometimes it's a tragedy. Because of this, the jokes don't land quite right. The chemistry between the characters doesn't work right, and the end result is a movie that is just forgettable. At number 16 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, I know a bunch of you love this movie. It was actually my most anticipated film of 2017, but the end result was a film that really disappointed me. Now, there's some great jokes in this movie, and there's some even better character moments. But the main plot lines about the Sovereign and Ego are two of my least favorite plot lines in the entire MCU. Also, the action comes off as just big CGI noise to me, and there's a mean streak running throughout this entire movie that just kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. And the end result is a movie that has some great moments in it, but on the whole, I just didn't enjoy nearly as much as I wanted to. At number 15 is Iron Man 3. There's some great action sequences in this movie. I love Tony's relationship with the kid, and if I watch it as a Shane Black movie, I enjoy it quite a bit. But as a movie in the MCU, it kind of cuts its own legs off by trying to be so subversive with the Mandarin twist that we swap out a very compelling villain for a very not compelling villain in the third act of this movie. The end result is a movie that has great sequences, great moments, but overall is not a great MCU movie. Coming in at number 14 is Captain America: The First Avenger. Now, I love the first hour of this movie when it's telling the origin story of Captain America. That's actually some of my favorite stuff in the entire MCU. I also love the relationship between Steve and Peggy as well as the time period. However, I didn't find the main plot line about Hydra and the Red Skull compelling at all. I actually found myself getting a little bit bored whenever it would cut away to the Red Skull and his schemes. Also, the movie montages through World War II, some of the stuff that seemed like it would be the most interesting. So the end result is a movie that has some really high highs, but also some really low lows for me. Coming in at number 13 is The Incredible Hulk. This movie's kind of the black sheep of the MCU in that Edward Norton was recast in later films, and it doesn't have the tone and humor of the rest of the MCU. But I find this to be a very enjoyable film. It's got a great cast, it's got some great Hulk action in it. While it's not necessarily the most fun, the funniest, or the biggest movie in the MCU, it delivers on the movie it's trying to deliver. At number 12 is Thor. Kenneth Branagh brings an amazing sense of grandeur to the Asgardian sequences, some wonderful fish out of water humor when we're on Earth, and the cast here is phenomenal. However, the main story itself and the tone shift very radically as we go from Asgard to the Earth, and that makes for an uneven film that doesn't have quite the right flow to it. Also, I never fully bought the relationship between Thor and Jane because essentially they just have a weekend romance where half of it she thinks he's crazy. So overall, it's a movie that has great sequences, but on the whole doesn't flow quite right for me. Coming in at number 11 is Avengers Age of Ultron. This movie gives us more of everything we loved about the first Avengers movie, and it kind of proves that more isn't always better. Now, there's tons of entertainment value in this movie. Some of the sequences are absolutely phenomenal, but because there's so many plot lines going on and it heads in so many different directions and it's trying to set up so many different things, it comes off as jumbled and cluttered at times. So while it's very entertaining, it's not a movie that feels particularly well constructed to me, so it doesn't make it into my top 10. At number 10 is Ant-Man. I was so pleasantly surprised by this movie. I got nervous when I heard they were making an Ant-Man movie, but they found a way to make a Marvel movie that's a heist comedy. Paul Rudd is, of course, charismatic and charming and funny, but Michael Pena kind of steals the show with his storytelling in it, and also find a way to have Michael Douglas play so well off of Paul Rudd's sense of humor. The end result is a movie that's not trying to be a home run, it's just trying to get on base, and it absolutely does it in a thoroughly enjoyable movie. Coming in at number 9 is going to be Doctor Strange. Now, the visuals here are absolutely phenomenal. They found a way to take the magic and make it kinetic, exciting, energetic, especially when it does like the kaleidoscope, bendy world stuff. It's just a feast for the eyes. Unfortunately, the main villain and plotline aren't nearly as imaginative as the visuals themselves, but still, this is one of the most unique and interesting films in the MCU. And number 8 is Black Panther. This movie does some of the best world building of the entire MCU by telling a story about a king and its kingdom. It's also populated by an amazing set of characters where we actually understand what each character values, and this builds tension throughout each of the scenes. Now, some of the action here I don't think is handled particularly well, and our main villain doesn't show up in the film until really about halfway through the movie. The end result is a movie that I thoroughly enjoyed, but I probably respected it more than I enjoyed it. At number 7 is SpiderMan Homecoming. For me, this is one of the most purely fun movies of the entire MCU. Tom Holland is charismatic in the lead, the entire cast is fun and quirky, and Michael Keaton's Vulture is kind of like the Walter White of the MCU. There's some things here and there that I didn't like about the movie that I found kind of annoying, but the end result is a film that I find incredibly rewatchable and very entertaining. At number 6 is Thor Ragnarok. This movie is just a wall of entertainment for me. Whether you're talking about the music, the color scheme, the oddball cameos from different actors, or of course the sense of humor, it's a movie where they just throw fun at the audience. At times, the humor does undercut the drama of the film. The end result is a movie that just put a smile on my face from beginning to end. Coming in at number 5 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Here, the Russo brothers managed to craft a political thriller inside of the MCU. The end result is a movie that gives you all the action and spectacle you want out of a comic book movie, while also giving the intrigue and drama that you want out of a political thriller. Now, the stuff with Bucky and the Winter Soldier always felt a little bit like a retcon to me, but the end result is a film that is one of the best crafted of the entire MCU. Coming in at number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Seeing this for the first time is one of the most pleasant surprises I've ever had at the theater. I thought I was going to like it. I didn't think it was going to be nearly as funny as it ended up being, and that was largely because they hit the fact that Drax was the funniest character in the movie. In the end, James Gunn crafted one of the most heartfelt and quotable films of the entire MCU, and I love this movie. Coming in at number 3 is Iron Man. The first movie in the MCU is still one of the best. That's largely because of the world that Jon Favreau built, the tone that they set, and Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. just has amazing chemistry with everyone. It just brings every scene to life and makes it so much fun and funny. The end result is a movie that is well constructed and thoroughly enjoyable from beginning to end. Coming in at number 2 is Captain America: Civil War. What I love about this movie is that it's based off real dramatic tension, in that we understand where both Tony and Steve are coming from, and they're both kind of right and they're both kind of wrong. This leads to authentic conflict. It's also jam-packed with amazing, stellar action sequences, in particular that airport sequence where we bring all these characters together. This is an amazing comic book movie. But coming in first place is The Avengers. It's a movie that starts off strong, but only gets better as it goes along. When the different characters come together Joss Whedon finds a way to make them have so much chemistry and be so fun and funny together. Also, it's a movie that has possibly the greatest third act of any comic book movie ever, as it's essentially a dream come true for comic book fans as you see these characters start tearing bad guys to pieces. Every character gets their moment. For me, it is the most entertaining and the best movie of the MCU. So that's my take on the MCU. Here's some of your picks for the best and the worst of the MCU.
Alright guys, we just got back from seeing Black Panther. This movie was amazing. It's probably one of my favorite MCU films.
I love SpiderMan Homecoming. It's one of my favorites.
Guardians of the Galaxy for me is the best MCU movie. It's the one I go back to watch the most times.
Captain America: The Winter Soldier is the best film in Phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay, so The Incredible Hulk is probably my least favorite MCU film. It's just a really boring movie.
Iron Man 2. I don't think it's as bad, but I do still think it's one of the worst of the MCU.
So Iron Man 3 is actually my least favorite Marvel movie.
So those were some of your picks for the best and the worst of the MCU. If you want to potentially appear in one of my future videos, all you have to do is download the Stardust app. It's a totally free app where you can share your reactions to movies and TV shows. You can get it at that link down below. Just follow me and tag me in your reactions, and then you can potentially appear in one of my future videos. And if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos, but I don't want to just talk about movies. I want to talk about movies with you. So join me down in the comment section, share your ranking, and be sure to come back every Monday as I journey to Marvel's Infinity War by re-reviewing the entire MCU. I'd love to see you over there, and as always, thank you for watching.